It's 11 p.m. The house is quiet. Nobody's texting, nobody's expecting anything from you. And for the first time all day, your brain actually feels still. If you've ever noticed that your calmest, clearest moments happen after dark, when everyone else is asleep, you're not being dramatic. There's a real psychological explanation for why nighttime feels like the only hour that belongs to you. But it's not just about quiet. It goes deeper than noise levels and schedules. The reason night feels peaceful has to do with how your brain processes social obligation and what happens when that pressure finally lifts. Here's the core of it. During the day, your brain is in a constant state of availability. Even if nobody's actively demanding your attention, you're carrying the awareness that someone could. A text could come in. A request could arrive. Someone might need a response. This background level alertness is what psychologists call vigilance load, and it runs all day whether you notice it or not. At night, that load disappears. Not because nothing could happen, but because the social contract changes. Nobody expects you to respond to a message at midnight. Nobody's going to call. The world has collectively agreed that this window of time is off limits, and your brain recognizes that. The vigilance system stands down. And what you feel in that moment isn't just quiet. It's the absence of anticipatory social pressure. For people with anxiety, this effect is even more pronounced. Anxious brains are particularly sensitive to anticipated demands. The "what if someone needs me" signal runs louder and more persistently during waking hours. Night shuts that signal off, which is why people with anxiety often describe nighttime as the only time they feel free. It's not freedom from noise. It's freedom from the expectation of being needed. But there's another layer to this that has nothing to do with other people. Nighttime removes what psychologists call the performance self. During the day, you're performing a version of yourself. The professional version, the social version, the parent version, the version that's productive and functional and has their life together. These roles require energy. They require monitoring. Am I doing this right? Do I look competent? Am I meeting expectations? At night, those performances end. You're not being observed. You're not producing. You're not required to be any version of yourself except the default one. For people who spend significant energy managing how they appear to others, and that's most people to some degree, night is the only time the performance pressure fully releases. This is why creativity often feels more accessible at night. Your brain is no longer allocating resources to social monitoring, role management, and expectation tracking. Those freed up cognitive resources become available for introspection, imagination, and the kind of wandering thought that produces ideas. Writers, artists, and musicians have reported working best at night for centuries. It's not mystical. It's just what happens when the brain stops dividing its attention between creation and self-presentation. However, there's a darker side to this pattern that's worth acknowledging. If nighttime is the only time you feel calm, that can indicate that your daytime life is carrying more stress than you've consciously recognized. Psychologist Guy Winch has written about emotional exhaustion masking, where people don't realize how drained they are until the demands stop. If the relief you feel at night is extreme, like a weight lifting off your chest, it might be worth examining what's generating that weight during the day. The night isn't creating peace. It's revealing the absence of something that was hurting you. And if the only time you feel like yourself is when nobody's watching, that says something about the gap between who you're performing as and who you actually are. There's also a biological component that interacts with all of this. Cortisol, your primary stress hormone, follows a daily rhythm. It peaks in the morning, roughly 30 to 45 minutes after waking, then gradually declines throughout the day. By late evening, cortisol is at its lowest point. So the physical experience of calm at night isn't just psychological. Your body is literally producing less stress chemistry. This is why some night peaceful people struggle so intensely with mornings. The cortisol spike at dawn feels aggressive to a nervous system that's been resting at its lowest stress state. You go from the most peaceful version of yourself to the highest cortisol version within an hour of opening your eyes. That transition can feel brutal, especially if you stayed up late enjoying the calm. And here's where the self-awareness matters. If you consistently sacrifice sleep to access more of that peaceful nighttime feeling, you're trading tomorrow's functionality for tonight's freedom. Sleep researchers call this revenge bedtime procrastination, a term coined by journalist Daphne K. Lee. You're getting revenge on a day that left you no time for yourself by refusing to end the night. The behavior makes complete psychological sense. You're trying to reclaim time that feels like yours. But the cost is cumulative sleep debt, which increases anxiety the next day, which makes the following night feel even more necessary as an escape. It's a cycle that feeds itself. So what's the takeaway? The peace you feel at night is real. It comes from the combination of lowered cortisol, removed social vigilance, suspended performance demands, and cultural permission to simply exist without producing or responding. That's not a quirk. That's your nervous system finally getting what it needs. The question is whether you can find pockets of that feeling during daylight hours too. Because depending on midnight as your only moment of peace is sustainable for a while, but eventually something has to give. YouTube thinks you'll like the video on screen. Click it. And if you're watching this at 2 a.m. feeling extremely called out, subscribe. You'll fit right in.